The NHL Combine this weekend was one last opportunity for this year's draftees to make their case. We're going to share some key takeaways from the Combine and talk about the best options for the Nashville Predators on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks again so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off our Monday episode with a hearty shout out to our Locked On Predators insiders and to our everydayers who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio, and friends, I have some partners in crime.
You do. I am Emma Lingan, and I'm the Nashville Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News. And if you watch the intro on YouTube, and if you're a regular viewer and listener, of course, you are already well acquainted with Minka. She is my partner in crime. She is upper management here at the Locked On Predators podcast, making sure that we stay in line. And let me tell you, there's not enough money in the world for that job. So she does it well.
Crowns in heaven for Minka, friends. Crowns in heaven for Minka. Because if you have been following the Nashville Predators, you know this was a season that was a little bit off the rails. So Minka has had her work cut out for her, keeping Emma and I in line as we have broken down the 2024-25 season. But we're looking ahead. We are cleansing the palate, and we get to do that today, Emma, talking about the NHL Combine that took place over the weekend in Buffalo, New York. The NHL invites the top prospects for the draft to come in. The teams have an opportunity to talk with these draftees, and of course, they compete and complete some physical fitness testing as well that the teams use as they get ready to make their final selections at the end of the month. So it really kicks off this whole draft season. And we're going to talk about all of that today. We're going to share with you what we learned from the NHL Combine. Emma and I are going to talk to you about some of the picks that we really like for Nashville, especially at 5th overall. And then we're going to tell you the one thing that we really, really, really don't want Barry Trotz to do with the 5th overall pick. Before we dive into all of that, though, we want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. All right, Emma, the Combine. Such a fascinating experience. God bless these kids who are probably still sleeping in on this Monday morning after the Combine experience. It is a week-long event. All of the teams come into Buffalo. The top 90 players come into Buffalo, and the teams set up different meetings with these players. Sometimes, if they really, really are interested in you, they're going to take you out to dinner too. And then, of course, the weekend wraps up on Saturday with the physical fitness testing for the draftees as well. So there's really two parts to the Combine, Emma, that helps these teams kind of focus in on what they're looking for. One are the interviews, and one is the physical fitness testing. So the interview portion of our program at the Combine, Emma, what are teams really looking for? What do they want to know?
I mean, that's when you kind of get an idea of a guy's character, the kind of person he is, also the way he thinks, and just kind of the way he talks, the way he interacts with other people. Because again, they've seen these guys play. It's not like they've never laid eyes on these kids before. They're not asking them about X's and O's in hockey. They honestly, a lot of the questions are going to be about non-hockey things. I mean, it's going to be things like, we've heard some weird questions. Apparently the Predators this year, they had the thing where it's like you had to balance 2 golf balls. Was that it on top of each other?
You had to balance 2 golf balls.
So that's like obviously it's not a test to see can you balance 2 golf balls. It's a test to see your sort of your analytical skills, how you think about it, how you go about trying to do something, how you deal with frustration when it doesn't work. Like there's a lot of things that go into that. So just trying to get an idea of these guys and how they think, how they act, off the ice.
Yeah. One of my favorite interactions that we did with our Locked On Predators insiders, and then we used this in an episode earlier in the season. We talked about what questions would you want to ask in these interviews, and I'm like, let me in that room, because I had to learn how to get teenage boys to tell me how their day was. I know how to ask the tricky questions. So that was a great episode, and I loved the different angles that you take, the different questions that these teams ask. Like you said, balancing 2 golf balls. It doesn't have a darn thing to do with 2 golf balls. It's just a way to gauge something about these players. What is interesting, and what I think some people may not realize about the Combine, there is no on-ice portion of this event. They do not skate. There is no ice. They cover the ice, and that's where they do the physical fitness testing. So there's no on-ice portion. Like Emma said, these players have been scouted. The teams coming in, the scouting departments, the GMs, they know skating, but they want to get to know the people. And then you run into the physical fitness testing. And oh my goodness, y'all. The one that everybody talks about is the VO2 max testing. And if you are online, and we'll look for it and retweet it from the Locked On Predators Twitter feed or X feed, whatever. The VO2 max, it's just intense. I believe it was Michael Misa that we saw his VO2 max. It's 30 minutes or 30 seconds. It feels like 30 minutes. It feels like 84 years.
Yeah, 30 minutes. Woo.
30 minutes. And they're dropping like flies in Buffalo.
Yeah.
No, it's 30 seconds of max effort on a bike. And it's literally trainers just yelling at you to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. So if you've been a Nashville Predators fan, you have had some sort of an existential experience over the season of what this feels like.
Yes, you do. I remember when I went to the Combine, I've never been more concerned that a stationary bike, like an exercise bike, was going to fall over, because it's like they're just going at it on this stationary bike and it's like wobbling. And I'm like, are you not concerned? I'm like, for me, if I was on a stationary bike and it started moving, I'd be like, maybe I'm gonna slow down a little bit. But
yeah. It reminds me of that scene in E.T. where the bike, they just take off. They've got that's what it reminds me of, that when you watch them do it, it's like, okay, something dangerous is about to happen. And then you get into if you are really, really liked by a team, they're going to take you out to dinner. And very interesting. We got some information on who the Nashville Predators did and did not have dinner with. And here is something that I think we need to talk about. We found out that Michael Misa went out to dinner with the Preds. So then you're like, wait a minute, you like this boy enough to take him out for a steak. Is Barry Trotz gonna try to get himself some Michael Misa? Look, here's what I will say. Barry Trotz would be smart to want to get Michael Misa. But Emma, when you hear that they took him out for dinner, the Predators, I think, were one of 5 teams maybe, that took him out to dinner, because you can only eat so much steak in a week. What does that tell you? Does that make you think, okay, Barry Trotz, he's going to trade up. He's going to this. What do you take away from Michael Misa getting a steak dinner from the Nashville Predators?
To me, it says that Barry Trotz and the Predators are simply doing their job. If you're picking in the top 5 and you are not taking Michael Misa out to dinner, then you're not doing your job. And I think that it's one of those things. It's not like, of course, everyone's getting out their little drama cauldrons, but it's not like, oh, he's going to trade up. He's going to try to get him. It's like, no, it's more, you have to think of it in the sense of, if we get the opportunity to trade up, if we are presented with that opportunity, is this a kid that we want to take? Like,
Right.
again, it's about getting to know them. Same thing again. The year I went, Barry Trotz loved him some Adam Fantilli. Really wanted
Oh,
Adam
who
Fantilli.
didn't?
But
Yes.
they were picking 15th that year. Adam Fantilli wasn't going to be available at 15th. So it's more of just like, okay, if we get this opportunity to trade up, to get into, top 5, top 3, whatever it is, I think it's more of like, okay, let's get to know this kid and see, like, we're not just going to have a knee jerk reaction and be like, take him because he's still there. Like, we want to get to know him a little bit better. And I think here's what's real. Hardly ever do teams trade if they have a top 3 or even a top 5 pick. Those picks don't get traded. I love how people talk about it every year like this is something that happens regularly. It really doesn't. So I'm not saying it's not possible, but it is not probable. But I think that this is your chance. This is the last chance you get. Like, you and Michael Misa are in the same place. Take him to dinner, see what he's about. And then, you have that information. You're just kind of doing your due diligence before the draft.
I also think it's really good for these GMs to meet some of the top players like a Michael Misa, because 4 years down the road, maybe Michael Misa is available in a trade, and to have established some sort of understanding, some sort of relationship with Barry Trotz, with the scouting department, having some idea about the organization and vice versa, down the road, that's an investment that may pay off. So I'm with you. As much as I personally would love to see Michael Misa become a Nashville Predator, this is extraordinarily unlikely. If I was Barry Trotz, I would have been like, just get an appetizer or a salad, Michael. I'm sure they did not. But this is
I'll
more
have
of
a
an
dinner roll, please.
I'll have, like,
Yeah.
we're going to do the soup and salad at Olive Garden with Michael
Yeah.
Misa. But I'm 100% certain that they did not. Coming up, Emma and I are going to talk about the players that we think are fairly likely to be options for the Nashville Predators with the 5th overall pick. We're also going to tell you the one thing we do not want to see Barry Trotz do at number 5. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA Finals are in full swing, friends, and every night is delivering those highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and those can't-miss moments. Whether it is a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there has never been a better time to get in on the basketball action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. If you are new to FanDuel, it is the perfect time to sign up. You can head to FanDuel.com right now and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you are going to get $200 in bonus bets. So check out all the action at FanDuel.com. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Emma, we're also going to just peel back the curtain real quick and tell you another little thing that slipped out at the Combine in reference to Michael Misa. And that is the fact that his roommate slipped up and said that Michael Misa is super excited to join the San Jose Sharks. So I don't know if you're supposed to say that, but I appreciate that came out there. So, I would not be at all surprised if that is where he lands. And honestly, if I'm Michael Misa, development-wise, okay, that sounds great. Talking about the Combine, I just real quick want to give a shout out to Russ Cohen. He is a co-host at Locked On Flyers. He does a ton of coverage when it comes to the draft to these young players. You can follow him on social media at Sportsology. You need to do that. He has tons of great work out. Russ was instrumental in getting some information to us about the Combine as well. So wanted to give a shout out to Russ. One of the things we talk about, they take them out for dinner. There's only so many nights to wine and dine people, but the Nashville Predators met with most of the players at the Combine. This is not just a chance to go, we only want to meet with the top players. You meet with as many as you can. They refer to it as hockey speed dating. And so, you get a chance to put a kid in front of you and let that kid talk with the organization as well. But when we're looking at the 5th overall pick, Emma, kind of here are the names that I think are ballparky names. And these are players that I feel pretty darn confident that the Nashville Predators spent some time looking into their eyes and talking about whatever it is you talk about speed dating. Anton Frondell. He is a Swedish center. Porter Martone. Now, he's a winger. But he's going to be in this, 5-ish area. James Hagens, that's a name we've talked a lot about. Caleb Desnoyers, or as we say in the South, Desnoyers. Brady Martin, Jake O'Brien, Roger McQueen. These are just some of the names that are going to be floating around in that area. Emma, when you look at the guys who are realistically potentially available at 5, very much unlike Michael Misa, kind of who would you say the Predators should target? Who is somebody that stands out to you and you're like, you know what, that I would feel good about that pick?
I think any of the centers, like we've said, if you're the Predators, you got to go with a center, and you're picking at number 5. Centers don't grow on trees. They don't come available often in free agency or on the trade market. But if you have a chance, you take it. So Frondell is an interesting and intriguing option to me. We know the Predators love their Swedes. So they're,
Who doesn't?
Yep. So just I like that as an option. I think that none of these players would be bad options for the Predators, but I think if you're looking at organizational depth, you gotta add some depth down the middle. Wingers are more readily available through other avenues, whether it's trades, free agency, what have you. So I think that you got to focus down the middle with that number 5 pick.
I agree with you. Porter Martone has generated a ton of buzz, and rightly so, but he likes to play wing. And Nashville, you do not get the 5th overall pick and say, you know what we're going to do? We're not going to address this chasm of lack of depth down the middle. You have to pick a center. I'm with you. I love Anton Frondell. I mean, yeah, he's a Swede, but it's a lot of Swede. There's a lot of Swede there. That's one thing Russ Cohen kind of noticed, is that players, defensemen who are bigger, and even the forwards who were bigger, generated more conversation, more attention, and just file this away, right shot defensemen. A lot. So guarantee you that if you were a right shot defenseman, the Nashville Predators talk to you as well. But I love Anton Frondell. I like that he has played against men in the Swedish league. I think that gives you a better eyeball of what he would do in the NHL. Of course, James Hagens, I think, is a very safe pick. I think, he would do very well. He's not going to be here next year. He's going back to Boston College, y'all. But a lot of places say when you're looking at centers and you're ranking centers, he's the second guy behind Michael Misa. Here is the one I secretly fell in love with. And I know probably Nashville's not going to pick him, but they did take him out to dinner, and that's Brady Martin. And Brady Martin, big, strong, physical, two-way center. He compares his game to Sam Bennett, which, that's great, but he's in my invisible backpack of hockey grudges right now. So Tom Wilson. Okay. But here's why I like him. This is why I love the Combine and the interview portion, because you get to know these kids. He grew up on a farm, y'all. This is my boy. As someone who won Grand Champion Showman for the Shamrock Sheep Club in 1991, this is my boy. So I love this. He grew up on a farm. They have 4,000 pigs, 60,000 chickens. They have 250 dairy cows. He refers to himself as farm strong. And I'm like, I know that. I get farm strong. I grew up in rural Northwestern Pennsylvania. I know the people of which he speaks. I loved his personality. And here's where he and I connected. He said the hardest farming job is stone picking, where you go through the fields and you pick up all the stones. When I was a little girl, Emma, and we remind my dad of this all the time, we used to have to take the wagon up to the garden and pick rocks. So we always harass my dad about like child labor and picking rocks. Well, Brady Martin's a rock picker. And I really like this guy. Now, I don't think that probably Nashville is going to pick him. And the rumor is, and I think this is interesting, Utah at number 4, they're very high on him. So this is somebody who may go a little bit higher. And if he does, that may leave somebody different available for the Nashville Predators. I don't know that you can nail down right now, here are the 4 guys that are going to be gone by the time Nashville picks. I think there is a little bit of wiggle room in there. So I think this draft is going to be really interesting watching these. I think picks 3 and 4 are going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I think that's why this draft class is so different than, recent draft classes. There's a lot more wiggle room, like you said, in that top 5. So I think it will be interesting. Brady Martin, it's funny you mentioned, because talking about farm strong, big, strong, two-way center, like, does that not sound like the kind of guy the Predators would pick? It's like
they eat that for lunch, you all.
They love that. The two-way, being able to, play a sound defensive game as well. Like, they love that. I think what they need is more skill. And I'm not saying that he's not skilled, because obviously he is, but more of that, like, kind of finesse player, because it's like they don't need a team full of Colton Sissons, like,
right.
And that's what they've had for so long. You need a Colton Sissons, and that's great, but you don't need a whole team of them. And I think that I by no means would I be upset if they ended up picking Brady Martin, but I think that this is a chance. You finally have this chance to pick in the top 5. Let's maybe think outside of the box a little bit, because those strong two-way, gritty bottom 6 guys are going to be available to you at 25 or whenever else you're picking. So, like, let's maybe think outside the box a little bit.
Yeah. That is very valid. And coming up, we're going to talk about the one thing that we just don't want to see Barry Trotz do when it comes to the draft. We'll tell you what that is coming up. All right, Emma, we were just talking about my new best friend, Brady Martin, and talking about, the Predators kind of, that is his description is pretty prototypical Nashville Predators. We joked on a show recently that the Predators stat that always jumps out as like inches over 6 feet. Like they love them some big defensive kind of strong guys. Here is my biggest fear. 5th overall pick. And you said this, Emma, you have to pick a center. You have this chance. You have not had a top 5 pick in eons and light years. You have to make good use of this. This is where I get afraid, Emma, because what does Barry Trotz tell his scouting team? What is his message to the scouts? Take a big swing. I want you to take a swing on a guy. Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. Do not take a big swing with the 5th overall pick. When I say that, I'm thinking of, and I mean this with so much respect, I'm thinking of a player like McQueen, who is a center, ridiculously talented guy. And this is a pick that if you don't make it 5-10 years from now, you could be going, man, I can't believe that the Nashville Predators didn't pick McQueen. He could be outstanding in the NHL. But McQueen has a back injury, and that is a tough injury to kind of gauge going forward. And my fear, and McQueen is just an example of this, but my fear is that with this 5th overall pick, the Predators are going to do that swing big thing. And for the love of God, please just pick the right guy. you don't have to make this more than it is. Like you don't have to Scooby-Doo this. Like, take the guy. And that's what I worry about, especially with the 5th overall pick, Emma. I am so afraid that they're going to quote unquote swing big and pass up on something that may not be as glamorous, but is the right choice.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between taking a big swing on someone and taking a flyer on someone. It's like, and I think that big swing mentality works much better in the section of the draft order where the Predators are usually picking, like middle to end. That's where the big swing thing, because there's a lot less clarity down there. Obviously, it's like guys are not, it's not, no one is coming into the draft like, yes, this kid, he's projected to go number 22 overall. Like, no one's saying that. So it's like, you have to just don't overthink it when you're in the top 5. You don't sometimes, like, the top 5 are the top 5 for a reason, like when it comes to these prospects. So it's like that. Yes, we just got through saying there's more wiggle room, there's a little bit less clarity, but it's like in the top 5, you don't need to be going and picking someone we've never heard of, because like, again, don't overthink it. Keep it simple. You don't need to try and like, ooh, they'll never see it coming. Let's pick this kid that no one's ever heard of who's projected to go in the 4th round at 5th overall. Like, no. Now, I don't think we're going to do that. But at the same time, it's like, we don't need to overcomplicate this. You don't need to be trying to play chess. Like, when you're picking the top 5, you can play checkers. That is okay. Like, you can play checkers. And I think it's that whole like big swing, kind of, well, Roman Josi was a 2nd round pick. A lot of people slept on him, but we didn't, and all of that. That comes later. You don't need to be using the number 5 pick to be picking like a diamond in the rough, hidden gem kind of guy.
Yeah.
You have time for that later.
That is my biggest fear. At 5, pick the guy. I'm not 100% sure I care if he balanced the golf balls. Pick the guy at 5. Pick the guy. Get the guy. Just get the guy. Now, further down with those other 2 first-round picks, and here's the thing, I would even be okay if Barry Trotz says, you know what, there is a guy that we don't want to waste we don't want to spend the 5th overall pick with, but we really, really like him. And so we're going to trade up and it's going to cost us a little something to get him. Great. I will sleep fine that night. The 5th overall pick. I love that. Play checkers. Play checkers with the 5th overall pick. Don't be like, well, I know James Higgins, but he's vanilla and we're going for Rocky Road. Go vanilla. Pick the guy. Play checkers. And that, I think for me, that is my biggest fear. That is my biggest fear with the Predators with the 5th overall pick. And like you said, we haven't seen them, pick 5th. So they've been able to execute this swing big kind of idea. And I think that they, Igor Surin, I think, is kind of a fun pick. I think Teddy Stiga is a fun pick. And I see how there is a little bit more wiggle room, a little bit more space with that. The 5th overall pick, friends, there's no space. You got to nail it. You got to nail the 5th overall pick.
Don't overthink it. Just, the top guys are the top guys for a reason. Like, again, history really tells us nothing, because the last time the Predators drafted this high, it was David Poile was calling the shots and not Barry Trotz. Yeah. And the last time they picked this high was 2013 when they got Seth Jones at number 4. Mm-hmm. That's great. Again, defenseman. So like, please don't pick a defenseman this time. But the point is, like, he turned out to be a very, like, the obvious pick. He was a strong, really good, had a really good and productive career in the NHL. Not had, I'm saying that like he's retired. He's literally playing in the Stanley Cup final right now. So I think Yeah, so I think that, like, I was gonna say history tells us, but again, different general manager, but same rules still apply here. It's like we don't have necessarily precedent of the Predators playing chess with a top 5 pick, but
Mhm.
because for the last, decade plus, they have been able to play chess because they've been picking in the middle or the end of the order. It's like you just want to make sure that they're not like stuck in that sort of
Yes.
mindset. And in fairness, of course it's a fear, like, but it's not something that's keeping me up at night. It's like
Yeah.
that would be horrendous if they did that, but I'm not like I do trust that they will, they'll play checkers with that number 5 pick.
Yeah. And Barry Trotz has to get this right. Like, this is just what's real right now. Barry Trotz went out and made such a splash last offseason with Stamkos and Marchessault and Shea. Let's be honest, haven't harvested a ton from that move yet. You've got Jonathan Marchessault, who is rumored to be like, yeah, let's talk. I'm going to look around here. Steven Stamkos, worst season. Brady Shea just figured out where the ketchup was at Whole Foods by the end of the season as the most tenured in the Nashville Predators defensive system. Bless.
I mean, 84 years is a long time to be
That's true.
tenured somewhere. So, give him credit for that.
Dog years, man. They were dog years, Brady Shea is saying. But Trotz has to get this right. Like, you have to get the only good thing that happened. One of the good things that happened last season, and I'm really working hard to make more than one, is that they got this 5th overall pick. Barry Trotz cannot go rogue with the 5th overall pick. He's got to nail that. And the rest of the draft too. I really think this draft is going to be really important for Barry Trotz because some of his moves so far in the short term have not panned out. Get this one right, Barry. And like you said, like, you almost have to work to get it wrong. So let's just not do that. Let's just not do that.
It's just not.
Let's just not. No. So that's kind of some takeaways from the NHL Combine. Again, as the draft gets closer, we'll talk some more about picks, what we're hearing, what we think Nashville needs to look at. Who are some of the picks a little further down in the first round who may be of interest to the Nashville Predators? So tons more coverage coming on the draft, but that is the Combine takeaway. Emma, before we log off on this Monday, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
Yes, you can find me on social media at Emma_Lingan, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can find Minka upper management staring at her empty dog food bowl at 4:59, wondering why she is persecuted. You can find me on social media at ANK_mama on ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. Friends, that's going to do it for this Monday episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks again so much for making us your first listen of the day. We're going to be back tomorrow with an all new episode. We'll see you then.